December meeting. First of all, let's deal with the public session. Do we have any people that want to address us prior to the meeting, the formal meeting? Ollie, do you wish to talk to us at all?
Yeah, I'm just going to, if it's all right, just talk about the planning application that we've submitted to extend the conservatory area. Obviously, as you've seen the plan, we spent quite a bit of time working with our architect to try and enhance the sort of dining experience and getting that view of Brent Knoll, because currently the conservatory is quite flat. So what we wanted to do is take the extension forward in order that we can get that side elevation of glass, which would then give the view of the knoll. So everyone sat in that conservatory area gets the view of the knoll. Again, in the design of it, they've sort of taken it so it mirrors what we've done with the internal refurbishment we've done at the top end, so it all matches in, sort of using the same roof tiles, same sort of render finish, same window frame, so it doesn't look like an add-on. But also bringing down sort of energy costs associated with the sites. At the minute, we have a massive cost with that conservatory, keeping it hot in the winter, cool in the summer. So by doing this, we'd be able to bring those costs down and obviously not cause damage to the environment. Yeah, and obviously the idea with the enclosed courtyard area is obviously because we're by the road, obviously the road noise is quite loud. But by putting it behind that building, you're sort of giving the people the outdoor dining experience, but they're sort of the noise and the dust from the road is lost. So that sort of is why we've decided to take the extension out into the car park rather than bringing it back on itself that way. Obviously, with the parking side of things, we're not actually, the way the architect's done it, we're not actually going to lose any parking spaces. It's just about sort of rotating the 3 by the roadside wall and then just pushing the other 4 back. So we've got the spare space with the delivery box over the other side of the car park, which means that we're not losing any spaces from a highways point of view. Again, we're not actually increasing covers inside the restaurant. It's just about giving us the flexibility. So if you've got 2s, instead of having a 2 sat on a table of 4, for example, you can split that 4 into 2 2s and have the space between them. Obviously, with social distancing at the minute, that's obviously quite a big sort of factor at the minute. But obviously, later on, it will just inside to potentially put sort of seating areas for people are waiting for tables. But again, obviously, we're pretty much at capacity without doing sort of a large extension on the kitchen. We wouldn't be able to cater for, you know, many more covers in the cafe. So we're not, once social distancing is gone, we're not looking to, you know, seat more than 60 odd people in the site. It's just about dealing with that, the waiting people that are happy to wait for tables as well.
Okay, thank you, Ollie. Any questions of Ollie at all while he's here? No? Okay. Did you want, sorry, Claire, did you want to address us about a particular planning matter?
Yeah, if I could, please. It's the first listed. It's the plan application for change of use at Laurel Farm on Vole Road. We are the other side of the motorway, so we're sort of Mark, but we're under your parish, hence why we're here. So it was really just to explain about the proposal. And there's a lot of information on the planning portal, which I'm sure some of you would have read. But there's lots of photos and things of the pods that we are proposing. But basically, it's change of use of an acre of land, which is our current farmland. We currently have cattle grazing, and we use it for grass cutting as well, grass keep. I will say that I've got my 3-year-old in the room, so if anybody comes in, that's who it is. So we currently have, as I said, cattle grazing on there. It's only an acre, so in terms of sort of the use, we don't use it a lot. But essentially, the proposal is for planning for up to 10 portable pods. They are quite small, so they're 5 meters by 3 meters. And initially, we're going to be looking to install 3 with a view to installing 10 in the future. But I mean, it'll be sort of for long-term future. Essentially, we're doing it to diversify. So obviously the economic sort of uncertainty for everybody at the moment, but also sort of pre-COVID for the farming industry. Many of you will know it's not the most sort of stable of economies. So yeah, we're really looking to diversify to allow us as a family to stay and farm here. Hang on a minute, Charlie, please. No. And the aim for us is to make it unique, quiet and secluded, and just make sure that it doesn't impact the area too much. Everything is, I'm really sorry. can you be quiet a second? Everything is portable. So in terms of being able to get it back to its original, getting it back to its original state is something that we want to be able to do. So if we needed to get it back to farmland, for example, then we could do that, because everything's going to be portable. So it's really about making something unique, something that is new to the area. So we don't believe that there's anything to this standard available in the sort of industry. And my aim really is for somebody to be able to drive past and not really know it's here. So in terms of impact, we just want it to be very secluded, very quiet, and just something, a bit of an escape really. So yeah, that's it. But there's a lot of information on our planning application. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Well done. Well handled with the little one. Bella, can you mute your microphone for us, please? Thank you. Thanks. Okay. Can we start the meeting then, please? First of all, is Malcolm there, David?
Yeah, Malcolm's here.
Yeah, thank you. You see we've got a new agenda this evening, but can we receive apologies, please? Do we have apologies, Owen?
I don't know, Andrew and Warwick's. I didn't see Warwick for a moment, actually. Warwick's there. No, there's no apologies.
Bob?
Can I just give Andrew Gillings apologies? He couldn't make it this evening, please.
Andrew Gillings. Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Declarations of interest. Bob, first of all, on planning. Any other declarations to have, please? No? Okay, thank you. You've all received, I think, by email copies of the minutes of the last meeting. Are you happy that I sign them as a true record of that meeting? Can you signify, please? Thank you. Thanks a lot. Andrea, planning. Do you want to carry on?
Colin, can I just get Owen to put me in the box?
Sorry,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hold on. I've got to find. Only about 5 screens here at the moment. Hold on.
Andrea?
Yeah.
Okay, is Bob ready? He's gone.
Gone.
Okay. So good evening. Our first planning application 0720000021. Change of use of land from agricultural to a glamping site, and the siting of 10 portable accommodation pods at Laurel Farm, which is Vole Road in Mark. So it does fall under our jurisdiction. An application has been made. Quite the norm now that farms are trying to diversify away from livestock to actually make a living, and this is the first area of the West Country that people can visit, so a glamping site here would not be too far away. I would imagine that Vole Road would be a nice site to actually have a weekend break or a week away from the city. Obviously, by listening to the proposal, we can see that it's going to grow organically, that they're not going to put everything on straight away. They're going to put 3 pods on and then see how they go, to whether they increase it, stop it, or stay where they are. There is some highways are looking into this, and they're going to make some further considerations. The ecologist, he had a lot to say, and it's because of the change of use. It's about the hedgerows and about the lighting designs for the bats. So clearly they've taken professional advice, and those items need to be implemented. If these conditions are met, then there will be no objections, but they've flagged up, that there needs to be some insight into preparing for the wildlife that have been seen and recorded. Southwest Heritage, Trust have no objections. And the civil contingency recommend a condition to complete and maintain a flood warning and evacuation plan for the site. And again, because we are in a flood zone 3, then this is prudent to do when there is going to be a change of use from agricultural land to something where human beings will be sited because of if there was to be a horrendous downpour, would that field flood? And what would they be doing if there was to be anything like that? Hopefully not. We're not going to see those times again. The site was actually, there's a demarcation on an acre piece of land, and they put the 10 pods, how they would envisage the site to look. So it's up to you councillors now to share your thoughts.
Are there any questions of Andrea? She seems to have outlined all the major concerns that we would generally have from a planning point of view. But are there any concerns that are to be expressed at all? I assume, Nigel and Andy, that you've both been consulted as your members of the planning committee.
Yeah, also reviewed the online, looked at the drawings. I suppose the first question that comes to mind is, and I'm glad that Claire said that her main objective here is that it can't be seen from the outside world. It's sort of like kept private and secluded. And I suppose one of the first questions comes up is, would this cause any disturbance to any neighbours? And obviously the neighbours, any neighbours are sort of like far distance away. So I don't see any issues or any other questions on this application.
Nobody around, is there?
Andy?
I went through it and read the various parts that all the government bodies and agencies seem to be asking questions. I felt, having read through it, that this was really a family that lives in the area, working in the area, trying to stay using the land, and because it's mobile, it fits with, if the land is needed again, it can be converted back. So with all the other agencies doing their piece, I think for Brent Knoll, it's a local family trying to make the land work for them the best they can during current climate. So I could see no reasons we would want to get in the way.
Okay, John, you want to say something? You're on mute, John.
Sorry, a small point which Andrew brought up, and that is highways. Highways are always a bit of a problem, but provided highways are satisfied with the increase in traffic in the area, I don't think I have any major objections to the proposal.
Okay. From your comments, it would appear that there are no issues with this planning application that we need to address, and subject to Andrea and her team agreeing, I would suggest that we support this on the grounds of, I'm not quite sure what grounds we would put for planning support. Andrea, can you add some words in that might help us?
I think it's bringing commerce and the diversification. Yeah, so we're not losing the land, and a family is actually gaining a revenue. There's also a kick on from that, because hopefully those local people will eat and purchase and visit, places that are local. So again, it's something that will embellish our community, I believe.
Okay, so it sounds as if on the grounds of economic development and sustainability of the community, by the sound of it.
Yeah, I think that's spot on.
Okay. Have you got those words? I can't remember what I said now.
They were quite good.
Yeah, we've got diversification, development, family, and economic sustainability.
Okay. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Well done. Thank you very much. Okay, item 2, Andrea.
Okay, item 2 is 0720-00022. So it's erection of a single-storey extension on the site of the existing conservatory. The conservatory is going to be demolished, and the installation of covered outdoor seating area and a bin store, and that's going to be at Ollie's Cafe, which is sited on the Bristol Road on the A38. So we've had a presentation from Ollie, and also Ollie and I have spoken prior to the application to actually see what his vision is. As you all know, he's actually taken out all the windows, the leaded windows that were there originally, and said what an absolute change in the view for the customer, in the brightness, you know, in the ambience of the cafe. And it was something that really has tenfold, you know, increased the customer experience. And I can see, you know, if you've got something that you want your customers to enjoy, and that is, you know, our local historic knoll, and that you can actually have a building that you can look out on, that would be really lovely. I understand from Ollie, you know, that there's an expense to be paid all the summer to keep it cool, and all the winter to keep it warm. Again, if it's a properly built building with the roof tiles and bricks and everything, and it's actually insulated, you know, that will actually obviously help. He's not impacting at all on the footprint of the building. It's going to be in the same place. He's not taking away any parking spaces, and it's not going to be intrusive. He's just changing a conservatory into a building which will be more substantial. A lot of thought has gone into it. I think it's really nice that a local company is looking to glory in the local beauty that we all share and we take as an everydayness. And again, it's a local business. It's somebody that is and has worked here for quite some time, and it's something that his vision, you can understand what he's thinking of doing. So here's the picture. So it will go from a glass conservatory into a purpose-built extension. The highways, there is standing advice, so that's fine because nothing changes. And Southwest Heritage Trust has offered no observations or any objections. It's a lovely venue, and we have seen Ollie grow in his success, and I think that it's now open for discussion with the councillors about how they feel this will enhance or not, as the case may be, the site that we already have.
Any questions for Andrea or on this planning application? But once again, it sounds to me that it is helping a business to develop, and it's supporting, once again, the community. Ollie's worked long and hard on this business to develop it. I remember when I think he had a television program where he was part of the development of the business, and I think he's shown with the recent refurbishments he's done the benefits of investing in a business and what comes from that investment. So I am quite happy to move that we propose this and accept this application on the grounds of business development, once again, sustaining the community, and Brent Knoll. Anybody got any other comments? John?
I would second that.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other comments because I realise I've made some comments, but Nigel, you got anything you want to add to that?
I mean, I echo what you say there, Colin. It doesn't look unsightly. It's an improvement to the business, so we should support it.
Thank you. Andy, as well, from your planning
I
point?
think looking at the plans, it's an improvement on what's there currently, and it's a local business we should support.
Okay, so there it is, improvements to the building and supporting an economic development. All those in favour?
Okay, got that.
Thank you. Don't feel as if you've got to stay now, Ollie. You can, yeah. Nice to meet you again. Bye. 00123.
Yes. So this is the continued use of land for combined agricultural and equestrian uses, retention of stables, steel storage container, food store, menage, retention of agricultural feed and machinery store, which is currently under construction. And this is on the land to the west of the animal centre, the RSPCA centre, on the edge of the village. So this is a really substantial major application. They've already have their use of the land, so it is the retention. So it's all there, it's all up and running, it's all in place. We all know the work that that centre does, and the rehoming of animals, and we have highways are saying standard advice, which is their normal response, and the Southwest Heritage Trust are again offering no objections. Because it is already in use, there are some conditions which the environmental health have put forward. That the stable condition, before the use permitted is concerned, the applicant shall submit to the council's satisfaction a waste management plan. So again, making sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And also the ecology report is that within 2 weeks of the permission, a lighting design and a lighting design for bats shall be submitted. And if that goes and there's no impact on the hedgerows, then there is going to be no objections. So again, there isn't any issues. There aren't any neighbours, and this land, it would be to continue the good work that they are already doing currently.
Nigel, anything to add to that?
From my point of view, I looked at this one and I again couldn't see any sort of like glaring issues. Looking at the reports, it seems that, you know, providing there are the requirements of those reports, providing they're followed, I don't see what harm this is going to do to the environment, to the village, and I would support this.
Okay, Andy?
It appears to be a continuation with safeguards in from other agencies, so I could see no reason why it didn't continue.
Okay. Any questions of Andrea, Nigel, or Andy of your planning committee? Any other comments? Well, once again, it sounds as if we should propose this, we should support this application on the grounds, if you like, of better development and better use of available resources. I can't think of any other words to sum it up, unless Andrea, you've got some more.
No, just you know, the continual use, that we would support the continual use of this land for the kind of work that they're involved in.
Okay. So have you got that, Owen?
I have.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that proposal? Yeah, John, all those, or Nigel, all those in favour?
Malcolm?
Is there as well? Okay, David? Yeah, okay, we're unanimous. Well done. Thank you, Andrea, Nigel and Andy, very much for that. Thank you. Can you let Bob back in?
Back in again now, yeah.
Okay. Hi, Bob. Members' activity reports. Anything? Who's on the planning? Who's on the footpath committee? Just a matter of interest. Footpath.
Cynthia's on there, and David. I don't know whether either of those two have any comments to make at all.
Oh, I have just one comment. The gate that leads into the footpath and that's next door to the cider farm, you can't really lift it to close it. It's extremely heavy. Seems like it's very.
I'm not getting any of that at all.
Cynthia, sorry, we can't hear you properly.
Sorry. Okay. The gateway next door to the cider farm is at the beginning of the path which goes up the hill. Okay, there's a gate there. Well, you can't to lift it. It really is. You can't lift it now. It's so heavy, and you can't stack it properly. I mean, it does need attention. It's been like it for some time, but it's got worse. You used to be able to lift it and put the you know, the traffic at the time. And because sometimes there's sheep up there and stuff, and obviously you don't want to stop open to get those on the road. You know what I mean, don't you?
Yeah. Is it our gate?
Well, I don't know whose gate it is, but it needs some. Well, it's whether we can put it there, I don't know.
David, is it our gate there?
I'm not actually sure on that, but I could go down and have a look.
Could you? If you could have a look, see what's involved, that would be great.
Yeah, that's fine. If it's an easy job, I'll just do it. But if not, we'll reconvene.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Anything else on footpaths? I've got one thing. I wonder whether one of you could just walk up the Knoll path, because I understand that the Knoll path is in a dreadful state of mud, and that people using the path have broken our handrail that is on the left-hand side as you go up, and they've broken down the fence to go into Mike Diamond's field and are using the field as access to the Knoll. Could someone have a look at that and report back, please? David, could you?
Yeah, I will if no one else will. I'm a bit busy at the moment, but I'll go up, try and go up at the weekend.
Yeah, David, if you're busy and you can't manage it, I don't mind.
I'll go.
So,
Brian, would you go?
Yeah.
Or if you want some company, I'll go up there with. Okay.
You can carry me back.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Is there anything else on footpaths? No. Okay. Highways matters from Malcolm.
Nothing to report other than what is covered by the agenda under matters of resolution and decision.
I.e., that's on our notes.
Weight restrictions, Burton Road.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, Brian.
Again, I want to mention the roundabout by the motorway. The markings on the roads are very poor, very weak. You can hardly see them, and it's dangerous even for people like us who know the route as to which lane to go in. So I think they really are desperate for renewal.
It is actually.
I know we've tried this before, but I think we keep at it really.
It is actually earmarked, Brian. It's just it's priority.
For when?
Well, I don't know.
Do we know when? Sorry?
It's on their list of in priority order. I think it will be done, but it's just a question of when, really.
Right. Okay.
Yes, which is frustrating, but you know, I think they're under a little bit of. And in fact, just as a side to that, when they do some of the white lining, I was going to ask them whether they could do our car park white lines again, because they're completely worn out actually. on our car park, because you remember last time they made us an offer that if they had any material over, they would redo our parking lines. And if they do, then that obviously that'd be probably worth doing as well if they've got spare stuff over. Quite a lot actually to do a car park.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Who did the village green report for the month?
That'd be me.
Okay.
I've done that. Nothing very exciting, I don't think. Grass was good, a bit long, but then there's been a lot of late autumn growth. Benches and tables good, not stained when inspected, but planned to be, and the bench wasn't anchored down, but Paul Dixon said he would, so whether it has been now, I'm not sure. I know he's fixed the trim trail bit. Some bramble growth and bushes by the entrance need cutting. Bit of rubbish, but nothing too serious. The car park was good, bit weedy around the edge, but that's nothing unusual, and leaves, but that's the same. Toilet block all good and clean when I visited it, and the telephone kiosk was okay.
Thanks, David.
We've got Bob has done it as well this month, so we've had two ghosts this month.
Oh, that's all right.
Bob, do you want to add anything to that?
Was just a couple of things which we one of them's alluded to in the report that's been done by the visitors for the play equipment, but there's a couple of safety issues. The one that they've mentioned is the concrete bench at the top end of the green. The wooden slats on that have become very loose and they're now bending very badly, and they said it was, if someone put their mind to it, they could break it relatively easy now. So Paul Dixon has given us a quote for a couple of these jobs, so I'll tell you what they are and then I'll tell you what the quotes are. The second one is the fence that's behind the toilet block, the one that runs alongside the parish hall. The stanchion at one end has rotted through on the metal work. It's rusted completely through and is now leaning at an angle. So again, if any of the kids do what they sometimes do and climb it, it could well collapse on them. And the third one was the what's it called? The fence that's between the car park and the toilets. There are 5 or 6 posts along there, of which 2 of the wooden posts have now rotted at the base. So if you touch the fence, it moves. So I reported these to Owen, and also the other thing that was reported to Owen, which is being dealt with, is the gents' toilet. Again, the seal has gone at the back of the cistern. So Paul, obviously, who did the job originally, is going to look at replacing that seal, because at the moment there's water coming out into the gents' loo. The 3 quotes that he's given us for doing the sort of safety work is for the concrete bench slats, to what does he say? To replace timber slats on the concrete bench, strengthened with the addition of a bracing to underneath of the seat and treated with preservative would be £144. To replace the metal angle post at the end of the high chain link fence behind the football goal would be £138. And to remove the 2 rotten timber posts of the fence in the car park and toilet block and replace would be £115. Do you want me to just repeat the seating would be 144, the fence behind the toilet block would be 138, and the fence between the toilet and the car park would be 115. Total would be fractionally under 400.
Yeah, £397. I think my own feeling is that we should get these done and keep going with our refurbishment of the village green where necessary. Are there any other comments? Does somebody else want to say something? John?
Yep. Clearly we need to replace the post by the chain link fence. Is the chain link fence itself still in good condition? I haven't seen it for a long time.
Yeah, the fence itself is in good nick. It's just literally the post at the end that's gone over.
Thank you.
Owen, is it
Well, we just
within
need,
us?
we just need a
Not with,
decision really whether we want to go ahead and get that done.
yeah.
Um,
Could I propose that
right.
we all these 3 jobs done, total £397, please? Seconder, John, all those in favour? That's great. So let's go ahead and get them done. Thank you.
Just as a matter of interest, and it just so that everybody's aware, you don't actually now need to second resolutions, proposals. You only need a proposal and then a vote. Basically.
Okay, thank you.
There's a bit of a new bit of stuff coming through there.
Okay, thank you very much, Owen.
Right.
Yeah, so is there anything on the JB Sports report that we need to attend to?
Which you've seen a copy of.
Yeah.
They were all low risk, weren't they?
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's keep moving on. The next one is Chairman's report, which is a new thing. I don't really have anything to report, except that I wonder whether we did an awful lot of, if you like, updating of our Brent Knoll website. One, to bring it in line with latest legislation for disabled users. And also we introduced or made amendments for the work that David Sturgis did at the time. So we haven't wasted that work at all. But what we need to do are 2 things really. One, we need to keep on top of the website to make sure from the parish council's point of view that it's up to date. And we also need to ensure that our, if you like, our mugshots and our profiles are up to date on the website. And could I suggest that I think Andy and Warwick have submitted some very good shots using their phone and then emailed them to Owen so that they can be uploaded. So can I ask those that have got a mobile phone if they can take their mugshots, please, or photographs and get them uploaded to Owen. And if you take them using your own phone, then you can make sure that they are suitable and that you're happy with them. For those that don't have a mobile phone, then I or any other councillor would be happy to come round and take that picture for you at any time convenient. But can we make that part of your responsibility, please, between now and the next meeting, that you'll get an up-to-date mugshot that you are happy with across to Owen, and also a few words about your profile, what you do, where you've come from, what your interests are, etc. Just very basic stuff so that people know who you are and who they've elected as councillors to the Brent Knoll.
I've already sent my mugshot in.
Wanted, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. But anyone else that hasn't, and I'm one of those, please, will you do it? And John or Cynthia, if you want a hand doing it, I'm sure somebody or I or somebody else will help you do that. Okay.
Can I just say something else about the website? We obviously got Dave to get our website compliant, which it now is, but there are some other things that I need to do. One of which is when submitting documents, they have to be doctored or changed in a way that they become disabled friendly. Now, I have to say that lots of us clerks in the area are all struggling with this because it's quite a hard thing to do, and none of us at the moment have cracked it. So we are going to try and organise a training session in the new year to try and get that done. But it means effectively taking the document and making changes that will enable it to be opened more easily by a disabled person. we've moved a lot further on our website than a lot of others. We're actually compliant basically now. It's just that we've got to make sure that every document that goes on there is also compliant. And I should be looking at that obviously in the new year to see whether myself and my colleagues in other councils can fathom this one out. We do know that Puritan have managed to crack it. So we're going to tap into her knowledge and see whether she can help us. But just to let you know that we are compliant, but we're not 100% yet. Okay. Just in case anybody in the village, a disabled person, says, actually, I can't access your documents. So just so that you're aware, it's work in progress.
Thank you. Bob, are you keeping in touch with the local organisations in Brent Knoll that also contribute to the site?
Yes, Colin. I mean, certainly I've been in touch with them, asking them to send information as and when they want to. I'll do another chase up and ask them if there's anything they want to make better use of.
Yeah.
I think at the moment, obviously, with the fact a lot of them are not doing a great deal anyway, so there's not so much coming through that would normally do.
Okay. I mean, what I really would like to do is probably have, say, a quarterly meeting with the subcommittee that met to look at the website, so that we can at least monitor it rather than leave it, which we have done in the past. Even if we just view it once every 3 months, just to check everything is up to date and in order. And I think if we can do this, our mugshots and our brief profiles, that would be a big step forward for us all, please. Thank you. Okay, that's enough of me. Owen, are you happy?
Yeah, just wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, I don't know whether, I'm assuming that some of the stuff I send out does help. I sent out some pre-meeting notes of the agenda this time. Does that help anybody? Does that help focus on the items on the agenda? Because obviously, I'm glad it does if it does, but if it's of no real benefit, then there's no point in doing it, of course. So it's always useful to know that it's serving a purpose. The new agenda, just in case you're wondering why we've had this radical change, this agenda actually meets all the regulations as far as a good agenda is concerned. The other one was nearly there, but not quite. And what this one does, it does give a 3-page agenda, which is the downside, because there's a whole lot on the front page, which frankly doesn't actually add anything to the agenda at all, apart from a lot of writing. But it does fit the sort of compliance issues that we need to put on our agenda when it goes on the notice board and the website. So hopefully, and the minutes will be similarly slightly changed to reflect the agenda. And of course, you'll notice on there that our website address is on there. The prominence of the clerk details has been reduced, so it's not in your face as soon as you look at it. It's slightly more subtle now, which is the way it should be. And all the various legislation on, for example, item 1, receiving apologies, is written on there together with declarations of interest details. So all of that is now on there, and hopefully, it will deal with my my Silker examiners as well, because they all require an agenda that is fully compliant. So it's serving 2 purposes really: getting us compliant and getting you compliant with Silker, which is
nice.
Good.
Yeah, just some feedback from me, Owen. I did find the pre-meeting notes useful, although I missed point number 1 with regards to the meeting opening early, simply because my eyes were drawn immediately to the red writing around the planning.
Yes.
And just as a note, I did lose some time because I actually viewed a planning application that was an extension replacing a garage in Burnham and Highbridge, because it said 00023 and not 123. So just a point there. Yes, definitely the pre-meeting notes do help. Yes.
Good. Okay, that's good to know. Nothing much else on there really. obviously my Silca is continuing. I'm hoping to have that done and dusted by spring of next year, which will make us a qualified council, hopefully. And we should be able to do all sorts of other wonderful things once that happens. So we look forward to that day arriving, hopefully. Provided I don't get cold feet between now and then.
What do you do in your spare time?
Oh, I fill it up, Brian, with something or other, you know, the odd corporate policy or something. I usually make it. So yeah. So if there's any questions to anybody, I mean, is there anything you want me to provide you with more of or less of? I'm happy to oblige.
I think it's brilliant. We're lucky to have you. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to police data and speedwatch report, if any. Is there anything to report, Owen?
No, the only thing I had was the report which I sent out to you from Sam Piers, which was the police report, which went out about a week ago to you. That's about the only thing I've had. So I don't know whether anything on that report that you want to raise or you want me to raise with Sam. I couldn't see anything on there that was likely to cause any issues, really. We're a very law-abiding village. Of course, there's not much happens in Brent Knoll, is it really? Apparently.
Okay. Bob, your reports, please.
Thank you, Colin. Yeah, just a couple of things. In terms of update from county, the normal COVID updates, obviously we're now in this tier 2 restrictions. Sedgemoor actually saw its numbers of cases going up quite dramatically, and across Somerset through November, the number of cases had gone up from there were 2,700, and by the end of November, it had gone up to 5,100. So there had been quite a substantial increase over what we had earlier in the year. We're now seeing that come back down again since the lockdown. Sedgemoor has dropped to being around about 100 cases per 100,000. But it's still, the R value is, in Somerset, we're being told, is between 1 and 1.3. So it's still on, it's not reducing yet. So we need to obviously, people need to be careful. Having said that, as I've mentioned before, the 5-year average sort of mortality rate in the county is actually 3% lower than the 5-year average for this year. So it's not had a dramatic effect in that sense, but obviously it has a massive impact on people, and we have had cases across the whole of Somerset, including within Brent Knoll itself. Moving on to other issues that have been going on for a while, the One Somerset, Stronger Somerset argument about the unitary, that's moving towards a head. By the 9th of December now, both the county and the district will be submitting their respective plans, and that will then sit with the Secretary of State for him to make his decision. There is some discussion at the moment about whether the county council elections will be postponed from next May. The reason being twofold in some respects. One is you would be electing people to an authority that potentially might be abolished within a year rather than a 4-year term. And also there's a thing called PERDA, which basically means during an election campaign, officers of the council are not supposed to get involved in anything that's political or contentious publicly. Now, the difficulty there would be is in February, March, the Secretary of State is due to be consulting on the whole thing about the unitary, and he'll be coming out to ask across Somerset for people's views. That would obviously be very difficult for the county council to comment on in the middle of a set of county council elections, whereas the district councils would be free to say whatever they wanted. So the Secretary of State basically wrote to the 3 authorities across the whole of the country that are being reviewed at the moment, Somerset, Cumbria, and I think it's North Yorkshire. And all 3 were asked if it would make sense to postpone the elections. All 3 have written back saying, yes, they think it probably would, but it sits with the Secretary of State for him to make that decision as to whether those elections will happen or not in May. The final thing also to mention is the climate emergency strategy has now been adopted by all 5 authorities across Somerset. So that's working towards reducing carbon across Somerset, both in terms of what the councils do, but also encouraging businesses and individuals to do what they can as well. So there will be elements of that which will involve lobbying government for further powers and responsibilities to enable those sort of things to take place locally. And also, as you know, we've got the climate change fund, which parishes can bid to, and that again we need to be dealing with. That will be being decided in January, February time in terms of where the funding of that £1 million will go. Happy to take any other questions on those if members have got any.
Brian.
I just wonder, I get the feeling that there's a tremendous rush towards this unitary authority change, etc. And I wonder why. Why is it seems to be such a rush, almost like lemmings, if I may say so?
To be honest, the government took the view that they wanted to see more local authorities go unitary a little while ago. They've been encouraging local authorities to do it by changing the funding formulas so actually unitaries get better funded than county district areas. So when the government came out for a further request as to were any other local authorities interested, a whole range of local authorities came forward, including the 3 I've mentioned, but there were others as well. The 3 that I've said to you all got their plans fairly well organised fairly quickly. And so when COVID hit, the government said they still wanted to go ahead with those 3, but they said to all the others that had expressed an interest, well, you're not as far down the track as these are, so therefore we're going to pause it for you, but carry on with these 3 authorities. So it's very much, it is a government-led initiative, but obviously the county then responded by saying, yes, we're up for it, and hence the districts then responded with their plan as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Bob? No. Thank you very much, Bob. Thank you. Owen, finance.
Following really the only 2 payments we have this month in addition to our normal statutory payments is a water account from 24th of March to 25th September of 114, although that actually is a direct debit anyway, so it doesn't require any specific action. And then the other one is a Silka training charge. This is for the 5 Silka days that I've been involved in, £275, which is all being done virtually. With 2 more still to go. They're the only 2 payments over and above our normal statutory payments. So I just need I don't need a resolution for the water account because that's part of the statutory direct debits. I do need a resolution for the Silka training charge.
So even though we approved it in a minute on the 7th of October,
yeah, we still need it as a payment as opposed to approving it. Yes.
Okay. Can we approve the Silka payment then? The proposal is to pay this Silka payment.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all in favour. A question. I think we agreed to include Andrea as a signatory or authorisation on the bank. Has that happened yet?
It's actually going through the process. You should hear something very soon, Andrea, from Unity Trust. They have apologised that all this stuff is taking longer now at the moment, but they would expect we would get it sorted out by the early part of the new year.
Yeah, no problem.
It's important to have that third authorisation because, you know, if Bob or Colin were not able to do it for any reason, we would be a little bit stuck on an emergency payment we had to make. So it's important to have the third person there. So just going down the finance thing, basically, you obviously received the budget for the November period. Received the budget. I'm sure that's all pretty self-explanatory, really. And of course, that's superseded really by the precept budget, which you also need to discuss and decide upon. Just to put you in the picture on the precept, I was saying to Bob earlier on, actually, a lot of councils are getting themselves a bit mixed between budget and precept. They're just not the same thing. The budget that we're setting is what our costs are, what we anticipate our costs are for the year, against all the various headings on our council. The precept is simply a calculation based partly on the budget, but also partly on the reserves that we wish to keep as a council, and taking into account also our fixed reserves, which we can't touch as our normal expenditure. So it's a slightly different thing actually, but obviously it all starts from the budget in the first instance. You've obviously got a copy of the budget now, which I sent you, the latest one. That has only marginally changed since the last meeting. The couple of areas where it has changed is I'd increased it slightly because we're expecting to have somebody doing the moving of the SID next year. The idea is that someone will be paid to move the SID around and give us the data and so forth. So that's now been included within this new budget, and also the health and safety fees that undoubtedly will come from Nigel and I's meeting with them in January. There'll be at least £300 or £400 of costs there. And of course, we're moving to Scribe financial software next year, which again is another 200 or 300. So about £1,000 gone on to the budget since the last meeting. So that's put the budget up very, very slightly. The other thing is that we apparently have always been including a forecast of VAT reclaim when we set our likely income for a following year. We cannot do that. The VAT cannot be included in our budget calculation or in our precept calculation. So I've removed it. So by adding the budget increase slightly and taking the VAT reclaim figure out, it has pushed up the bottom line to about 34,000. Well, I've got the exact figure, 34,896. Instead, I think I had it at 36 last time. I think last month it was 36, which was deemed perhaps just a little tad high. I don't know. But what are your feelings on the budget? I mean, how do you feel about it? We're 33 in the current year, and this proposal recommends 34,896 or 35 if you want to round it up, and that includes £17,000 of reserves, which is slightly down on where we've been in the past. So you know, we can either up the reserves, reduce the reserves, which will change the precept requirement, or we can upscale or downscale the budget, which will also change. The two factors that will change the precept is a change in the budget or a change in the reserves. They're the two things that can affect the budget, the precept. Sorry.
It's a very minuscule change, isn't it?
It's about £1 or something.
Yeah.
I sent out this morning the email.
I know that a few years ago, there was an increase of about or a very small percentage in the local contribution, which worked out at 29p a month per household, and they still complained.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very small, isn't it?
Particularly for a Band D property. And you've got to remember that the reason why it's so small is because the parish precept is a very small part of the overall total. You've got the county, the district, parish, and the police. And we're at the lower end of that precept. So that's why it has less effect on us if we increase it than it would if you went to the same percentage at the county level. I mean, I'm right there, Bob, aren't I? If the county level shoved theirs up by 3 or 4%, you would notice it, but you wouldn't notice the parish council precept going up by that amount. So, because we contribute less to the overall total. So, you know, you've obviously looked at all the headings, all the various budget headings, looked at the proposals, and it's a matter of you, really. You know, I've done the work to set the actual budget in place. It's a question of whether you like that budget, whether you want it to be bigger, smaller, whether you want to increase in some areas, decrease in others. It's entirely a matter for the council.
John.
I would be prepared to accept the proposal, which clerk has put before us.
I'll be quite happy with that.
What, at 35,000? Shall we just round it up rather than deal with pounds and pennies, Owen? Just round it up.
Much easier round figures.
Yeah. Okay. The proposal is then that we accept or we would like a precept of 35,000 for the next financial year. All those in favour? Is Malcolm out? Malcolm's okay. Yeah, that's lovely. Okay.
Actually, for a council of our size, and I think Bob will probably bear me up on this. For a council of our size, we are, how can I put this? On the high side, on the high end of precept. There are many councils of our size that are operating on about 17 to 20,000 precepts. So we're not the highest, but we're in that top third of precept amounts. Not a problem, because we've done quite a lot actually.
We'd have no money to do anything if we adopt that position.
Do you agree that, Bob? Is that how you would see that?
Yeah, that was what I was going to say, Chairman. I mean, it's down to the fact that we are quite active and we do get involved with doing things within the parish, the speed indicator devices, what we do on the green, the footpaths, and the special projects that we've had with fencing and stuff. So, yeah, we are doing a lot as a parish. Some parishes don't do so much.
Okay, well done. That's good. Thank you. Are you happy with that, Owen?
Yeah, I'll set that precept to Sedgemoor and get that all set up.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Okay, matters for resolution and decision. Council policy updates for adoption. You've had these policies circulated, so rather than go through them in detail, I wondered whether we could take them all at the same time. As regards Owen's contract of employment, I've had a look at it, and it addresses all the key elements, or merely substantiates or improves that information, not necessarily benefits, that Owen already has. So it's quite clear on salary, quite clear on pension, quite clear on notice, quite clear on sick pay, and quite clear on leave. So all the main things are there, but it's just tied to the relevant policies that we need to govern Owen's terms and conditions of employment. So
the reason why I've updated it, just in case you're wondering why it's updated, is because it's now getting on for 14 years ago since I joined the parish council, and that contract was looking decidedly outdated, you know, because obviously things have changed since then, and there were omissions from it which had to be in there. For example, diversity and equality, health and safety, those sort of issues had to be drawn within the contract. They were not in the original one, and consequently I felt it was a good time to just update it with the same, pretty well the same detail, but just updated with the latest information in there. And that's the reason why it was redrafted. Yeah.
So I'd like to propose, if I may, that item A, numbers 1 to 6, we approve, and they become enshrined, for want of a better word, within our corporate documents for the parish council. Could I ask for a vote, please? All those in favour? Thank you. Okay, so that's
exciting reading, wasn't it? Exciting reading.
Yeah,
it was absolutely thrilling.
Right.
It cured my insomnia.
Owen, when I went through those documents, they certainly fell off the printer because they weren't formatted to A4. The margins were too wide. It didn't print properly. So I spent quite a bit of time reformatting them all to get them into Word documents. It would print.
Oh, right, okay. That's interesting. Mine have all printed off okay on mine, so that I don't know why. Did you print them off on did you take them off an Apple or Microsoft?
No, it's in Windows. It's off Outlook with big laser printers, but all the margins were wrong, and because you put headers and footers in, it just knocked everything out of alignment.
Okay, I'll look at that.
Yeah. Yes, certainly when I came to print them out, they were all over the place, but that was, I was using an Apple. Whether that's different or not, I don't know.
I'll have a look at that, Warwick, because they should be within the...
Other than that, I mean, they read all right. They fell in line with a lot of the policies now for our company, so there's no issues with the detail of them.
Okay, thanks for that. Well, thanks for that. Anyway, I'll sort it out. Okay.
Okay. Update on Sid. Oh dear. The question on the old SID, the one that we're seeking to send back, is that we've been advised by the Sedgemoor District Council solicitor that we should enter into as much communication with SG Group to seek to resolve the problems that we've got. And so what we will have to do is meet with them, get this thing put up again and tested, which we will have to do to make sure that it doesn't work. And I'm quite confident that it won't work. And we've got to, if you like, make quite clear that once it fails any of those tests, that is it. That is the end of their demonstration, and they must agree to take the equipment back. The other thing that has come to mind on it, if it does work, because they insist that it must be put up on a proper vertical post and sited correctly, which we will probably take it round to Burton Row, where we had it before, rather than outside the Red Cow, and set it up there. But we need to ensure that our criteria are properly detailed so that they know exactly what they've got to do and what will fail their tests. I mean, if anybody would like to become involved in this, I'd be pleased to have your company. Nigel.
Colin, a question here. We spoke about this external party and we spoke about it in the finance as well, with regards to supporting us paying for a service of someone looking after our speed indicators. Surely it would be advisable that if we can fast track that and then use that person when the test is done with this this company.
Yes, no, that's an interesting point. I was going to move on to that one, to be honest with you, but I think it was the general feeling of the council that this speed device was rubbish, and that you wanted us to make every effort to seek for its return and reimbursement of the money we've paid. Because following on from that, we had a demonstration that Bob organised. When was it, Bob? Monday, was it, or Tuesday? Monday. And this guy bought this unit. He whacked it on the post that SG Group said was totally rubbish and inefficient and wrong. And this unit worked like a dream. And it was originally set up for 30 miles an hour indicating. And Richard said, well, can you reset it so it responds at 20 miles an hour? And the guy just opened the door, moved a switch, closed the door, and it responded to 20 miles an hour. That's the sort of kit we want. And the guy that bought the stuff is the guy that deals with the repositioning of the units in various places. And so he knows this unit inside out. He downloads all the information. He charges the battery. He gives it, he knows exactly how these things work and has full confidence in them. So moving on, taking yours, I agree with you. We need to get this guy involved. We need to get some proper good units. And this one we saw was brilliant. But there are 3 others that we've been offered to look at since then. And my view is that we should form, which seems to be the best way of us working as a council, because people obviously can't give up their time and they're working, but we really need a subcommittee to have a look at these units, and rather than rely upon one person to say, this is the one I recommend, like we did last time, we want to have a look at them ourselves and make sure that we're buying the right unit and get this guy in to supervise them and movement. So my preference would be to set up a subcommittee. Please, could I have your help? Because it's a bit lonely. Brian, Bob, Nigel. Okay. Can we make a note of that, please? And I'll get you all involved, because it really is an important job for us to get right.
Yes.
Sorry?
I did also volunteer. I was indicating.
Yes, I've got you down, John.
You're
Yes.
on here, John. You're on here, John, definitely.
Yeah, we've got you. Yeah, thank you. So John, Brian, Nigel, and myself, and Bob.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, enough of Sid. Dog bin. Bob, do you want to go on this one, please, on the dog bin as a result of meeting today?
Yeah, certainly can do, Colin. Following the meeting last time, when we were advised that obviously we couldn't put it where we'd initially suggested near the footpath, we contacted County Highways, because if you remember, we used to have a bin that was removed that was opposite the school. There is a verge opposite the school on the opposite side from the school, which potentially might be a possible location. So we had a word with Highways just to check whose verge it was, and they've come back and said it's their verge. They've given us some suggestions as to where it could be located, basically saying it would need to be at least a metre off the carriageway, and that they would obviously want to confirm where it would go. But that they are happy in principle for it to go there, that it wouldn't be in the visibility splay that's coming out of Church Lane, and that could be a possible. So it would not be a million miles away from where the dog users used to use it, near the old bus stop. It would be in proximity of the school, which is one of the areas where we're having the biggest complaints that there is mess on the pavement. And so I think what we would be looking for would be an in principle decision from the council tonight that they're happy with that location, but we would have to get Sedgemoor to liaise with County Highways, because Sedgemoor would be the ones actually installing it. And so they would need to make sure it was done in a way that didn't affect the highway safety.
Could you tell me exactly where it is again? Where the site is?
Yep, so it's opposite the village school, in front of the fence and big fir hedge, which is outside a property called Sunny Cottage. So it's where there has been a whole lot of trees recently taken down in Church Lane.
Oh yeah.
The front of that property, but the property itself doesn't actually have an entrance, either pedestrian or vehicle, onto Brent Street. It's through Church Lane. So there is a solid fence and a big fir hedge between where the bin would be and the property. So it shouldn't have the impact that it had where it was previously.
Yeah, so, right, thank you.
It's certainly a good location, Brian. It is right opposite the school, but it's not to the detriment, for want of a better word, of any surrounding properties or members of the public or property owners. So it is pretty. It's in a pretty good location, I think. Yeah. Owen, do we have to seek to now agree this?
Yes, I think we probably need to agree the positioning of it now. We've already agreed on the unit. We just need to agree that we're happy with that position. And then I can set the wheels in motion, so to speak.
Okay, so can we agree, councillors, can we agree the positioning of this and we'll finalise it with highways through Bob, but I think this is probably the best place for it to go. All those in favour? Thank you. Okay, we've agreed it at last. Thank you.
Okay.
Weight restrictions, Burton Row. I don't know much about this one.
This is one that Bob had some dialogue with the gentleman who lives down in Burton Row. Yes.
Yeah, if I can, Chairman. All it was, all members have had circulated to them by Owen the correspondence that came from residents in Burton Row. It particularly came to light recently. There's been some roadworks being carried out on the Barrow Road, which resulted in a lot of lorries being diverted around that road closure and sending them along Burton Row. Residents there are very concerned because some of them are suffering from quite bad sort of vibrations through the properties. They are in negotiation with County Highways about road repairs that might be needed. But they also raised the issue that they would like it to be considered that Burton Row should have a weight limit put on it to limit the traffic that might be affecting the properties. What I said to them was that if that was their suggestion, they would need to raise it with the parish council, because obviously we would want to get the view of the parish council before taking it to County Highways as a suggestion. But I think you all had circulated the emails that came from them, together with a document that was about environmental weight limits and the impacts that they have. So it's really over to members for comments as to what their feeling would be about potentially asking for a weight restriction. Obviously, Burton Row itself is a designated B road, and the residents are aware of that, and Brent Street, of course, isn't. So technically, the route around Brent Knoll is Burton Row, but it's something that members need to obviously consider and then decide whether it would be something the parish would favour if it's looked at introducing a weight limit.
Thank you. How does this impact on farmers' vehicles, such as, I don't know, milk wagons and things like that?
It basically, certainly as part of the documentation we've been sent, implies that if it were done, then there would be exemptions for those who are coming through for access, rather than those that are just using it as a through route. There are also other exemptions that cover things like buses and those sort of nature, so that wouldn't affect the coaches that come through for the kids. But so there are exemptions to the weight limit. There's no guarantee though that county would obviously do it, but it's a question of whether the parish would support it in principle to take it forward.
Well, from my perspective, I would support it.
Andy?
If we put a weight limit on there, what is the travelling route for such vehicles? And I'm thinking really, at the moment, we've got building going on, which takes heavy vehicles. We're bound to have that again in future. So if we put a weight restriction on there, how do the vehicles get around the Brent business area?
I think again, in terms of if there was building going on, then they would be having access down that road, so therefore that would exempt them from the weight limit. In terms of, you're absolutely right that if there are lorries and such that are using that route at the moment, they would have to find an alternative route, and that's something that county would have to look at. My guess would be you'd be having to send them around the A38, Edith Mead roundabout, Queen's Drive, and then Barrow Road. So there are, and that's why it may well be that county might want to see what those alternatives are if they're prepared to do the weight limit.
Thank you.
What do people feel about it as a council? Warwick?
Well, the detriment of that is, of course, if we actually put a weight restriction on Burton Row, they'd come through with the village, because there's no weight restriction down Brent Street, so they'll use that as an alternative route. So you have to bear that in mind. If it's a shortcut from Breen or anywhere like that, down through Station Road over the bridge, which I would assume had a weight limit anyway, but I could be wrong. Then if there was a rate restriction down Burton Row, they would turn down to Brent Street and come down Brent Street and go out on the A38 that way. So that is potentially a risk of restricting heavy vehicles around Burton Row.
I'm not sure. I tend to agree with Warwick that you're going to we've got enough problems with traffic flowing up and down Brent Street. Never mind heavy lorries, particularly at school times, early in the morning and late in the afternoon, or our on-street parking. David.
Why can't we put a weight restriction on Brent Street as well?
I think if you were going to ask for the one, I think you'd have to ask for both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with that, David. Yeah, because then it forces the A38 route and then on down into Burnham and out the normal way out to Breen, doesn't it? Okay, I think I don't know what others feel, but it seems to me that we would support weight restrictions on the basis that it was on Burton Row as well as Brent Street. Yeah. Is that your feeling? Can you signify what you think? Do you accept that we should go for Burton Row as well as Brent Street for weight restriction?
Yes.
Why not?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's the answer to that one then, Bob. We will support it, but in doing so, we want to include Brent Street, so we don't just save one road at the expense of another one. Yeah. Andy.
Do we want to say instead of want to include, that we say one can't be done without the exception of the other? Do we want to make it a joint? We either do both or neither. Because if you land up in a situation where they say, okay, Brent, but one road gets it, and we can land up with Brent being refused, we could land up, accidentally in the position we don't want to be in. So I think you've got to link the two together.
Owen, will you be doing this, or will Bob be doing it?
My intention would be to write to write to the appropriate county. To put this as a first instance to them.
Okay.
This is what Parish Council have decided. They're approaching you because we've had problems from the local residents in that area, and we would like you please to consider the appropriate weight restriction.
Okay, thank you.
It's going to be quite a long process, I'm sure, but
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Bob. Thanks, Owen. Thank you, everyone. Right, correspondence, Owen. There's no decisions to take here.
No, there isn't. Just a couple of things. I don't know whether you've got the same agenda as me. There's two other items on here actually. One is to do with the Axbrew letter.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you've all seen that copy of the letter from Axbrew Drainage Board.
Yeah.
And the other one's to do with the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit outside the school, which are both on the main agenda. So, I mean, obviously, do you want to take the Axbrew letter first? Are there any comments from the contents of that letter?
Is this the one where they're, if you like, draining it or redirecting or clearing it.
Yeah.
Dave, can you help us on that one?
Yeah, well, I'm quite pleased to see it actually coming forward at last, because as a condition of building the houses down Station Road, it was always said that needed to be in place to get rid of the water that's outside John Harris's place, because they need to turn the water round really and take it out towards the Applewithy Reen, sort of down Crooked Lane. So I'm pleased to see it's coming forward, and yeah, that's about it. Hopefully it's going to all sail through.
Okay.
So the council supporting it, basically, is that what we're saying? The council are certainly supporting that action.
Absolutely, I think so. Can you signify your support to that? Because I think it's important. Yeah, we all support it. Yeah.
We have also had some correspondence you've probably seen from a local resident, one or two items of correspondence regarding 20-mile-an-hour speed limit outside the school. And I think Bob has got some information on that, which he can no doubt furnish. Is that right, Bob?
Yeah, certainly can. Where to start? Yes, situation is as you say, we've had some correspondence requesting a 20-mile-an-hour limit outside the school, and there was also a petition that was put inside the village shop for the same issue. For those of you who've been on the council for a while, you may remember that this did come up about 18 months, 2 years ago. And it was at the time that actually Limpsham were doing their 20 mile an hour with flashing lights around the school. And at that stage, the county council did not have a policy at that stage of doing 20 mile an hour limits around school in general. Limpsham managed to get theirs. They did they partly paid for it by the parish council themselves, but it was actually a combined effort, but funded by the school, the parish council and the county council in order to do this. Now, at the time, we discussed it as a parish council here and we were supportive of it. We approached Brent Knoll School, and at that stage, it was felt that it wasn't a priority for them in terms of funding. So that's why it didn't happen at the time. Now, subsequent to that, it was raised at the county council by a number of us to say, well, why should it have to be done on a one-off basis? Can we not do this as a more general policy across the whole of the county? And it was then agreed that yes, they would introduce 20 mile an hour indicative signs and flashing lights around schools across the county. Obviously, there are a large number of schools to do, and they can't do them all at one go. So Brent Knoll is within the list, but it's not in phase 1, it's in phase 2 of it being done. No dates have been given as yet for it to happen, so hence there's been no advance notice given to the parish as to what was happening, because there's no specific time this is going to happen. And as you're aware, with things like the speed limit on the A38, decisions are often made and then it takes a long time for these things to be delivered, and people are saying, well, when's it going to happen and why isn't it happening now? So with that one, with the 38, we were notified in advance because there was legal information that needed to be out for consultation. With this particular one, there isn't the need for that, and that's why the parish council were not notified, despite the fact there was work going on in the background to actually see it delivered. So I would like to sort of reassure the parish council that obviously pressure has been put in the past to get this thing to happen. We've got it coming through, and it is on its way. And we've obviously, that is something that's been in train for a little while, but there's no point in making it public until you know it's actually going to happen, and not be oh yes, it's another thing that's on the list of things that might come in the future. So happy to take any questions, but that's the basis of how we've got to where we are.
Thank you, Bob. Any questions of Bob? No? Yes, Andy.
The reading through the correspondence that we had from the public, I think there's an aspect of the what can we do to expedite and keep people informed. I understand if it's a slow process, no point in getting people involved, but people are quite emotional about this, certainly down by the school. And we are now faced with somebody actually saying, if there is an accident, I've been warning you, there's going to be one, which might not be favourable. Secondly, even if we do put a 20-mile-an-hour sign out there, they're not abiding by the 30-mile-an-hour. So it's a matter of enforcement. And although we're looking at some form of speeding camera, I did read that the police are talking about putting a check down there and doing a speeding check. Can we not step that up and at least get everything to 30-mile-an-hour first before we start trying to get everybody down to 20-mile? And can we have an update on a regular basis for Brent Knoll people about when this is going to come through? Because if we're saying it's 5, 6, 7 years ago, how do we expedite it?
Certainly in terms of timescale, it wasn't 5, 6 years ago. This was a couple of years ago when the issue came up with Limpsham. My understanding is these will be delivered by 2022 at the latest. So we're looking at probably next year for it to actually go in. But the problem is, as I say, and I've had the same discussion with dozens of people in the village about the A38 is, well, you keep telling us it's coming, when's it happening? And I didn't want to set the whole ball rolling in terms of the school when I can't give you a date, and because I'm not being given a date as yet. Once I've got a date, I will certainly share that with everybody. But there is expectation management as well, and that's the difficulty we're in. But I would advise, obviously, for members of the public who might be watching this video, if they've got issues like this, if they come along to our meeting and raise it with us, then we can have this sort of discussion and keep people informed as well that way, which hopefully will help.
Is there any way in which we could check where we are on this list at all, Bob? Or literally, will it just happen when they decide?
Well, certainly the information I've given you tonight is exactly what I've got, which is we're not in phase 1, we're in phase 2, and phase 2 is likely to be happening next year. But obviously part of that work will be they'll have to come out and do the survey work, making sure where the signs are going and all that sort of work will happen in advance. So we should get notified before that happens, but it will be a question of they're now moving on to it. And without, again, making excuses for county, the 40-mile-an-hour limit on the A38 should have happened by now, other than the fact of a lot of their highway guys have been doing other jobs because of COVID. And so that hasn't been delivered. That, again, is being delivered, they hope, by the end of this financial year.
Yeah, because there's nothing we can do, though, or correct me if I'm wrong, in the interim to help ourselves, is there really? Because we can't put a speed sign, you know, you're speeding if you do over 20 miles an hour, because in theory it's a 30-mile-an-hour area. I suppose we could put a camera up there just to check. We don't have a position in that area, and I'm not sure where you'd put the camera, whether there's the possibility of putting one in that area. I can't think of any post that's available for a speed camera there, either coming up or down.
And in terms, Chairman, of you saying, well, is there anything more the parish can do? To be frank, Brent Knoll as a parish council has a pretty high profile down at county. You do raise issues with them and we do get things addressed. So it's not for want of you as a parish council raising this issue. You're on the list and you are there to be delivered. I don't think there's anything more that you can or could have done to get us any further forward than we are.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we've just got to let this one happen. But can we speak to the person involved? I mean, I'm quite.
I will write back to him.
Sorry?
I will write back to the
right.
involved
Okay.
and explain what Bob has explained, and that we have discussed it at this meeting, and we're happy that, what I gather, you're happy that we're processing through the procedures, and hopefully something will be there by 2022 at the very latest, probably.
Okay, thank you. your AGM for Salk, Owen.
Yeah, the AGM for South, there was a note come through. There's a virtual meeting for South, and it's purely a business meeting. They're not covering any topics as such. They're just doing the sort of housekeeping bit that we'd have to do at one of our annual meetings. So I don't know whether Bob, are you happy to go along to that? Have you got the joining details? You have.
Yes, you forwarded them.
So it's just really a procedural thing, really. We're members of South, and obviously we need to just make sure that they're doing what they should be doing.
Okay, thanks, Ben.
Yeah, updated communication regarding Bakersfield. Well, obviously I've sent everything that's come in connection with that. I put it on the website, so if anything comes to do with the website, I put it on there. So hopefully there's not much to report really. They're getting on with it, as far as I can see.
I was surprised to see the chimneys up before the roof tiles have gone on. Is that normal practice? Presume it is.
Are they false chimneys?
Yeah.
That's what I wonder. Are they?
False, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I did wonder.
Okay.
And the other one we had was an email from a resident regarding the railway bridge and the post box. The post box is in place now down at Brent Corner, but it's not operational. It's got tape over it, apparently, or it's got something stopping people using it. Apparently, it has to be sort of initiated or whatever they do with it to get it working, which hasn't yet been done. So not much we can do about that. We've raised it with them, and hopefully it'll come in good time. I'm not quite sure what the bit regarding the railway bridge is to do with the fact that it's been finished off in a galvanized paint or a galvanized finish. I'm not sure what colour it should be or what colour it is required to be, but I'm not sure what we can do about that, actually, unless anybody else has got any suggestions or ideas.
I think we've got a very substantial fence there, and we've got a lot of other things to worry about the colour of the bloody fence, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Any yeah. Okay.
Really, what I'm asking is, you want me to go back to the resident involved and offer anything to him, or just say that it's in the process of being dealt with?
Yes, Andy.
The resident was actually pointing out that somewhere else along the line, the handrails have been painted black or green, and that was the suggestion coming out of the letter.
Right.
I must admit it would have been a lot better painted green, more environmentally friendly. It looks rather harsh in the plain galvanized colour, but
I could write a letter to them asking them whether they have any plans to change the colour.
I think probably we should do it to show that they haven't put much thought into it, to be honest with you. But Bob,
I was only going to mention one thing on the positive front. You'll remember for a long time we've been trying to get them to do the fence repair on the Ham Road side where the cars went through and broke the fence down. We've just had notification through in the last week that they should be doing that next week. So they are actually doing the safety stuff and putting that in place.
Thanks, Bob. Warwick.
If you irritate British Rail enough, they'll paint it in bright yellow and black chevrons. Like everything else on British Rail. Because it's there for safety, motorists, to stop them going through it and onto the line.
Yeah.
So if highways approve what they've done, it's bright and shiny, it's galvanized. That's what all palisade fencing is generally, shiny and silver.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what.
Speechless.
I'll write them.
Yeah. Okay. Right. That brings our agenda to an conclusion. Just take item 10 first. As a result of our meeting, is there anything that we should consider going to the media with to publicise what we're doing? I don't think so, but I'll be guided by by you all. Any comments? Okay.
We have an item at the end of the meeting regarding a 2-minute silence for a former councillor who passed away fairly recently. That's correct. Yeah. You would have known the
Derek Wootton. Yeah.
I think it would be appropriate if we were to mark his service to the council with a 2-minute silence, if you all agree with that.
Okay. Shall we do matters of report then, and then leave that to our very last item?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's take matters of report. Cynthia, anything for next meeting?
Mute.
John? John, you're on mute. We can't hear you. John, you're on mute.
Ah.
Nothing from either.
Nothing, thank you. Nigel?
Yeah, this may be a bit premature, but question to Bob with regards to the district council on the COVID related. Are they discussing an exit strategy yet? And if so, is that something that we should be talking about maybe February or January?
Exit strategy in what respect?
In respects of we know now that we have vaccines coming up and coming, and if we start to see maybe we see a rise, maybe we see a decline, but we have to start talking surely about sort of like, or governments or district councils are talking about coming away from virtual meetings at some stage.
Yeah, certainly as things are going at the moment, the advice we've got in terms of the vaccines is they are looking to roll those out pretty soon. And there is a discussion going on at the moment about how they're going to do that, whether it's through centralised. And the initial plan is they're talking about a centralised situation in Shepton for everyone to go to. There is discussion, particularly from this end of the county, to say, well, that's fine for people who can get there, but what about the rest of us? So they're then looking at what they can do to make that more achievable locally. Once that starts to happen, then I think, yes, there will be a review of things like our meetings taking place virtually, but the legislation as it stands at the moment technically allows us to continue through, I think, Owen, it's until May of next year.
The May the 7th.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Bob, meeting?
Was only going to mention two things if I could, Colin. One was, hopefully you all, I think Owen copied into all of you the consultation that's going on about the Grange at the moment, which is a fairly major plan. Would suggest certainly members, if you can have a look at it. The consultation I think is on until the 8th of December, but it's well worth having a look at because it is quite substantial. And the only other thing I was going to briefly mention was to do with the shop. You'll remember at the last meeting when we gave you an update, we were talking about a valuation having to take place, and the mortgage company was saying they would put us in touch with someone to do it. They haven't done that as yet, but they've come back to us saying we should be getting that imminently. And at that stage, we'll need to come back to the parish council to talk about authorising that to take place. But that's something we'll need to deal with in a future get together.
Okay. Andy, anything at all?
No, fine. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you. Andrea, Warwick?
Nothing from me.
Nothing from me.
Thank you. Brian?
I haven't received the daffodil bulbs yet, Owen.
Oh, right, okay.
So,
I'll follow that up.
when I do, perhaps I could get some help from some of you.
Yeah.
And also the railway bridge over Crooked Lane, the right-hand side wall is in an absolutely shocking state, rusting away. It doesn't look, it's probably not dangerous, but it looks awful. So,
Yeah.
Whereabouts is that, Brian?
the Crooked Lane railway bridge. And it's the right-hand side, you're walking out towards Burnham.
Okay.
I took some photographs of it some time ago.
Right.
Yeah. David, anything?
Nothing from me, thank you.
From Malcolm?
Anything?
No, nothing for me.
Can I just say something as well, Colin? Just one thing. one of the things for Silcraft had to do is take a project and produce a report to the council, which would have come tonight, but it deemed to be too much on the agenda. And I've chosen defibrillator. And I've done a lot of research on it, and it's about a 2-page document which I produced as a part of my portfolio, and it's on a defibrillator for the village. I'm intending to bring that to the January meeting, but obviously I will circulate it pre-meeting so you can read it. It's quite a detailed report and gives us a bit more of a different angle on food for thought for whether we want to consider it for the future. There's not a requirement in the portfolio for you to accept it. It's not part of the portfolio. All I have to do is produce it to you, present it to you, and you have to make your appropriate comments. So, and I need to feed those comments back via the report. So if you could have a look at it when I send it out after Christmas, I would very much appreciate it.
Okay. So that concludes that. So our final item is to have our 2 minutes silence. And can you remind me of the name of the person in particular that we are? I'm not aware of the councillor concerned.
It's Derek Woodcock, isn't it?
Woodson.
Derek Wooden.
Yeah.
Okay.
He lived just the other side of the motorway.
Okay. Thank you. So can I suggest that we commence our 2 minutes now, please. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Owen.